My name is Amanda Ramold. I am 24 and I was sexually assaulted.
Tabitha, I'm 23 years old and I was sexually assaulted.
Mia, assaulted and harassed. I'm 23.
My name is Mabel. I'm 21 years old and I was sexually assaulted.
My name is Deanna Buller. I am 22 years old and I was sexually assaulted.
My name is Rita. I am 22 and I was assaulted.
So I was 16 and he was the guy I was dating at the time.
Yeah, it was 4 years ago when I was 19, and they were family friends.
2 years ago, and the assailant was my sister's husband.
I had two assailants. One was my ex-boyfriend and the other was a stranger I met off the internet.
My experience was about 4 years ago, this coming February 3rd or 4th, I believe. I knew my assailant because he was in my group of friends at the time and he was the popular guy on campus.
Well, I've been sexually assaulted 3 times, all within the last 4 years. So the first time was in March of 2014, and the second time was March of 2016, and the third time was March of 2017. The first one was by a stranger at a party that I went to, and the second one was by a coworker, and the third one was by a family member.
It was a normal June day. I was babysitting my nieces so my sister could go out on a date night.
Being invited over to hang out with them like normal, like any normal day. I basically lived over there. Drinking underage was never really a problem because I could just walk home. And they gave me a lot of tequila, and that's all I really remember is the night I lost my virginity.
He had asked me if I wanted to try to have anal sex with him because we were already sexually active. I was, open to it, and so we had started trying, and then it really hurt. I asked him to stop. He said no. He kept going. He said, let me finish, let me be done. And I was crying. I was begging him to stop the whole time, and he did not stop until he was done.
Mine happened within the span of 48 hours. The first night I was supposed to go on a date with this guy I met off the internet. He seemed like a really nice guy. We talked on the phone for about 2 hours. And so we were supposed to meet up, but it kept getting pushed back, and unfortunately the coffee shop we were supposed to meet at had closed. So he just said, "Why don't you come over?" And I'm like, well, I guess that's fine. I don't really want him to come to my place. So I went over, and I thought we were just gonna hang out, get to know each other some more, and it had escalated to the point where he had raped me, and I had asked if I could leave. He told me no. He held me there for another hour until I had explained to him my parents would call the police if they didn't hear from me, and so that's when he let me leave. And I had, as soon as I got in the car, I called my best friend, my ex-boyfriend, who was my best friend at the time. And he said I should come over, but because of the fact that my parents calling, figuring out where I was, I just had to get home. So the following night, I went to my friend's house, and I went over there to hope that he would comfort me and would hope that he would be there for me. But when I got there, and he let me cry on his bed for a while, and he held me until he started to hump me. And when I told him no repeatedly, he then made it seem like it was my fault. He was making it seem like I should have expected that this is what was going to happen when I came over.
I had just got into a fight with my abusive ex-boyfriend, and he was there, and he broke up the fight. And in order to cope, I had gotten not drunk, but I was tipsy. And he waited till everyone was asleep, and pulled me into the bathroom and proceeded to force himself on me. And before I could say anything, he just said that it's me, it's the guy, everyone wants me anyway, so why not just come on?
The other two I've kind of processed, and so they don't really affect me as much anymore. The third one has been the hardest one, and that was, I was living in Colorado with my grandma and her husband Bob, and there wasn't really like a specific, I guess I started noticing that when I was in the bathroom, there was like a noise on the outside of the door, and I kept convincing myself that my grandpa was fixing something. I don't know, it was just, and that went on for a few months, and then one day I got out of the shower, and so he had made like this little like gap between the door and the door frame, and when I got out of the shower one day, I looked over because I started hearing like some movement and he was doing something outside the door. So I looked over and I saw him looking in at me, and I was really close to the door frame, and so it was I was really shocked.
It dramatically changed my life. It definitely affected like the guys that I was interested in. I was now interested in guys that didn't really treat me the best, that really didn't have a value in me.
I became a hoe, or a whore, as one might say.
Sex was very complicated for me for quite some time, and I became very withdrawn. I didn't really talk to anybody that often. I became secluded. I stayed in my room a lot. I barely went to class. I ended up flunking out of college because he was in the majority of my classes and he was everywhere.
I did talk about it, but I did internalize it a lot, and I started going out with guys all the time. I was on dating sites and just trying to fill this void. With Bob, I guess I had a lot of nightmares when I came back home to Omaha. I had a lot of nightmares, and I had trouble when I was just out and about. If there was an older man just at the grocery store, I'd freeze up and I'd have to walk away or walk somewhere else.
I was petrified of making new connections with people. I secluded myself from my friends and family.
The only time I came forward was the very first time that it happened to me. Just because I didn't want it to happen to another girl. The second time, I didn't even realize that I had been assaulted until like a year later. And then with Bob, I didn't come forward because I didn't have any evidence or anything to, I guess I just didn't even really think that I could come forward about it.
The night it happened, I came forward. I had gotten a rape kit done, but it came out inconclusive, and that broke me more than I even thought it could.
I didn't, because I thought no one would believe me. I felt like I had no power over anything, and he had already started telling people a different story. He took control over the narrative, and I felt like even if I did say something, they're gonna bring up the times that me and him had flirted, or me and him had danced, or when we went out to dinner, or the couple of dates we went on beforehand. So I just felt like it was conditioned for me to look like a liar.
My family and one of my friends who was living out of state at the time had encouraged me to actually at least file a police report just so it wouldn't happen to somebody else. My case was thrown out due to the lack of evidence and me not willing to confront my rapist.
My parents didn't know anything about it. They didn't know that I was sexually active at the time. They still don't know to this day that that even happened.
The night it happened, I went to my sister and asked her if I could borrow $50 and pay her back the following Friday because I needed to buy a Plan B pill, and I didn't want to do the rape kit. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to take care of it myself and make it disappear and make it like nothing happened.
No, I haven't. Simply because it wasn't that I knew that they wouldn't support me. It was because I felt ashamed that I allowed that to happen when I've been told all my life that if someone did that to you, you stand up for yourself, or you fight, or you tell somebody. And I felt like it was already too late, and I just couldn't deal with hurting my family that way, so I just didn't even bother.
The first one I did tell my family, or I told my parents. My mom got really upset. She was yelling, and then she wanted to clarify that she's like, I'm not yelling at you, I'm yelling at the guy that did this to you. My dad was really quiet, and I didn't realize until later, until my mom told me, that he was crying.
I told my mommy, I told her because she's one of my best friends, and I just recently told her.
I think it can be a little bit harder for people to come forward when they see all of these stories on the news with women coming forward and then them being ridiculed and judged. Some of them are coming forward maybe 10 years later, or, however long it is, when people get judged for that, it makes people really scared to come forward.
What made me want to come forward is that every story needs to be heard.
Reading the Me Too hashtags and everyone else's stuff, finally realizing that I'm worth more than what I make myself out to be.
Because it is something that's really hard to come forward on, and I want people to feel more comfortable to share their story, to talk to somebody about it, or to come forward either to the police or to their friends or family. I think it's something that we need to start talking about and not just brushing under the rug. I think people need to feel supported.
What made me want to tell my story was I needed to feel some type of closure. I knew I was never going to tell anybody or file a report or go the mile like I should have, but in order for me to move on with my life, I have to let it go.
It's been a long time coming, but I finally have forgiven him.
Well, the first two, I guess I wouldn't really have anything to say, just other than I forgave them.
They taught me to be a stronger person. Every single last one of them, all of you, have taught me how strong I am mentally.
I think you're a complete dick. You preyed on someone who was very vulnerable at the time, and you knew my situation, and you used that to your advantage. And I just want you to know that it's not just me. I'm the face of your mother, your sister, your niece, your aunt, your cousins. You can't ever escape me, and you can't ever get rid of me. And I just want you to know that I know that you have a child. And how would you feel if someone did your daughter the way you did me?